Hey folks, Thom Rainer here. I am so incredibly enthused that Belay is the founding sponsor of the Church Answers podcast. We've always had a great relationship with Belay, and now we have the opportunity to work with them even more closely in this brand new Church Answers podcast. Now, I'm going to say a few things about Belay, but I want you to hear this personally from me, from Thom Rainer. I have used Belay for many, many years. In fact, I even used them before they were called Belay. I'm not going to give you the other name of their company before then. And what I mean is we have found these type of workers to be incredibly effective, incredibly relational, and Belay takes care of everything. You need an executive assistant, and they'll provide it for you. You need a bookkeeper, they'll provide it. They become a member of your team in many ways, but Belay is doing all of the heavy lifting. You know, many of you leaders, there's a moment in your personal and professional life where you realize that you may be in your own way. You know, you need help. Let Belay come in. Delegating it to them, it may seem intimidating, especially if you don't know how they can do so. You don't have to worry about reading every email, scheduling every call, responding to every request. You have more time, more energy to work on the things that move the business forward, and you can achieve your big goals both personally and professionally. So I want to just say with a loud acclamation, welcome, Belay. And let me just encourage you. You've got to get this resource. You've got to get this resource. It's free. And it's called Delegate to Elevate. You pastors and leaders and business leaders, incredible resource to talk about how to do delegation. Here's how you get it. It's in the show notes, but belaysolutions.com/Thom Rainer, ThomRainer. So start trusting your team more. Stop diluting your efforts. Empower yourself to courageously focus on your strengths and delegate your weaknesses. In no time, you'll do what you're supposed to do. Lead your church effectively, or if you're in a business, growing your business. Once again, we welcome Belay as the founding sponsor. And once again, get that downloadable at belaysolutions.com/Thom Rainer. Again, welcome to the Church Answers podcast, episode number 2, a new podcast. Hey, please do this. Give us a rating and review wherever you listen to on your favorite podcasting app, or if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to us or give us some kind of like there as well. Get the word out. We're making this available as a ministry to you, and I want to let just the world know so much of these things. Not that I'm the font of all wisdom by any stretch of the imagination, but let me tell you what we have at Church Answers. We have data points. As many as 250,000 churches in the course of a year get information from us either free or they purchase some of our resources. So we're able to see what's going on with churches. We have a lively community of about 1,800 pastors active talking to one another, and we watch what and hear what they're doing as well. So a lot of this information is not the wisdom of Thom Rainer, because that would almost be an oxymoron to have a wise Thom Rainer. This information is coming from many people, but this one is personal. This one is very personal. Okay, here's the scenario. I am the pastor of my very first church. Every pastor has first church stories. I've got a lot of them. My dominant spiritual gift is, my dominant one is ignorance, and then my subsidiary gift is stupidity. And I exercise both of those gifts regularly. My church had 7 members in it. Those 7 were pretty faithful. I then had a family of 4. My youngest son, Jess, had not been born at that time, so you can get an idea how long ago this was. He would be born and become a part of that church and church family, but it was a small church. It was a small church in southern rural Indiana. We not only did not have a traffic light, we did not have a stop sign. There was one place where there should have been a stop sign, but we did not have a stop sign. That's another story in itself. I am a neophyte pastor. I have 0 experience. I don't come from a line of pastors. I was a 5th generation banker when I left banking to go into vocational ministry. I didn't get to watch a father or someone close to me. As a matter of fact, in my teenage years, I was unchurched. And then finally, when I got married, I went to church. But shortly after I got married, just a few years later, I went into vocational ministry. So I did not have the background. But that doesn't always excuse my stupidity. It was time for my first funeral. Now, to be fair, 2 or 3 months earlier, I had officiated at my father's funeral, but that's different. I'm mainly talking in a testimonial type. I'm not trying to get everything correct for the family because I am the family. So really, this was my first funeral of this ilk. I'd never done a funeral before. Now, here's the problem. I did not know the deceased. Many of you pastors have that issue. You're asked to do funerals for someone you don't know, and you try to get as much information as possible from the family so that you can make the funeral personal for the family and that you can provide hope if they're a Christian, or if you don't know if they're a Christian, you have an opportunity to share how they might become Christians, those who are still living. And so I get it that you've been through this before, but I was so nervous about doing this funeral that I went and got me at the local Christian bookstore a pastor's guidebook. I can remember it to this day. It was small. It was blue. I can't remember who the author, I don't know if it was Criswell or Jim Henry, but it was one of these well-known pastors who put it together. And I looked up how to do a funeral. Okay, I've at least read the chapter on how to do a funeral. Next, in that little book, it said, you may want to ask the local funeral home if there are any particular customs or traditions in that community of which you should be aware. I go to the funeral home about an hour early. The funeral home directors greet me. Hey, you're a little early. I said, yeah, can I ask you some questions? And sure, coming in my office. And there were like 2 or 3 of them there. And I said, hey, this is my first funeral. I just want to admit it. Are there any particular customs in this community that aren't typical in funerals that I might need to be aware of? I should have picked up on it when there was this pause for a moment. I should have picked up on it when I saw 2 of the guys smiling. But again, I'm such a neophyte. I just want to find out what's going on. So one of them speaks up and said, oh, yes, there is. Most of our funerals are open casket funerals. The body will be behind you as you speak. And this is a tradition that most families will want you to embrace, including this one, I'm sure. As you finish your message for the funeral, you are to turn around and kiss the deceased. Yes, you heard it right. You're to turn around and kiss the deceased. Naive me, you know what I should have done? I should have said, I don't think you're telling the truth. I should have asked some other people, but it was 30 minutes to the funeral. And why would a funeral home director lead me astray? I still am asking that question to this day. Okay, it was time for the funeral. Part of the problem was I did not know this person. I was told that I needed to go visit her by the other 7 church members, that she was a member of the church. But I said, well, when was the last time she was here? And they said, oh, we haven't seen Martha in over 10 years. So I don't even know why she was still on the church roll. That's another story for another time. And so I called up the home. The husband answered and I said, can I come visit her? She had cancer. And he said, no, she doesn't want any visitors. He was adamant about it, almost to the point of being a bit rude. So I honored the request. So by the time it was time for the funeral, I didn't know any of the people there. And even when I went in to ask the family about the deceased, they just did not give me any information. Usually I can get information from family. I did not hear. So now I finish the funeral, the message. The moment is about to take place. I turn around, I look at the open casket, and yes, I plant a kiss on the cheek of the deceased. You should have seen the family. They were aghast. They had no idea what I was doing. The rest of the people in the funeral home for the service had no idea what I was doing. And looking in the back were those 3 men who had guided me astray, who had done this for their own humor, shame on them. And they were trying not to laugh out loud, but you could tell they were rolling in silent laughter. It was something that I will never forget, but it is also something they will never forget. And it is something the family will never forget. So The lesson? Well, don't go into a funeral unprepared. But I was prepared as I knew to be. Should I say don't listen to funeral home directors? No. Most of them have been very helpful. But I got to tell you, as soon as that funeral was over and I spoke to the family, there was no graveside, I took off. I was one embarrassed dude. And then the next Sunday, my church members asked me, "Did you really kiss Martha after the funeral?" Yes, I did. It was one of the most humiliating things that ever happened to me. And it was one of the most humorous things that those funeral home directors have ever had. It was the day I kissed the deceased. Continue to listen to us on Church Answers Podcast on your favorite podcasting app. Watch us on YouTube. Thank you again. And remember, we have all first three episodes already downloaded if you decide to binge. And after this one, I don't know what you're going to decide to do, but I'll see you later. Thom Rainer back with you. Before we leave this podcast, to just thank again Belay for being the founding sponsor of the Church Answers podcast. Hear me very well. I said it at the beginning. I'm going to say it at the end. We have used Belay at Church Answers for several years. We've had incredible workers that they have sent us, and Belay takes care of everything. They take care of paying them. They take care of all of the what would be paperwork now, e-work. They take care of it all, and you are free to do the things that you need to be doing as a pastor, as a business leader. So go to Belay. Go to belaysolutions.com and do this. Go to belaysolutions.com/Thom Rainer. That's ThomRainer. When you go to Thom Rainer, don't forget the H in Tom. And get this download. It is incredible. Delegate to elevate. I can just promise you with this download, you'll get new insights of how to free yourself to do the things you love to do the most. Thank you, Belay. Thank you for being who you are. Go to that download, belaysolutions.com/Thom Rainer, ThomRainer.